Hi viewers, it's so good to have you once more. This time around we're taking the third video on our UTME series video, and today we'll be looking at a very interesting topic. But for now, before then, I hope you did the quizzes that was given to you in the second edition of our video. The quizzes on fraction, decimal and approximation. Guess you did it. If you did it properly, you should be able to get the result that will be displayed on your screen. Look at that result, compare with what you get. I'll be right back. Welcome back. Now, today's topic, we are going to look at your everyday mathematics and also on percentages. Then I assure you that at the end of today's topic, you are going to be able to do the following. Deal with problems on percentage error. 2. Solve problems on simple interest. 3. Solve questions on profit and loss percentage. And finally, solve problems on ratio, proportion and rates. Now, but before that, I want you to look at the challenge question for today's topic. Can you solve the following questions displayed on the screen? Let's see. But then, those questions you're seeing on the screen seem to be very difficult, but don't get started. You know what? Join me as we are going to see solutions to this topic, and I want you to stay still, watch the video to the end, and then you are going to see how we are going to simplify solutions to these questions. Now let's go. Now let's delve properly into the topic of today, everyday mathematics and percentage. Percentage, interest, profit and losses, rates and ratio are aspects of mathematics we come by in our day-by-day activities. We will discuss every part of this subject in this topic. Now, as we discuss this topic, I want you to take note of these keynotes. Keynote 1, under percentage error. Now, percentage errors occur when we make an estimate of a result, since we do not have or know the exact value of that result. Now we are going to also look at mathematically, it can be written like this, that error is equal to the actual result minus the estimated result. That's the error. Now if we want to calculate the percentage error will now be error over actual result times 100. Secondly, we want to look at simple interest. If a principal amount of money, let's say P, is invested over a period of time T at a rate R of interest every year, it yields what we call a simple interest. That is, simple interest represented with I can be equal to the principal rate times time all over 100. Now, you might be required to find the amount A, or the future value at the end of the investment period. Now, the value for that will be the amount which is equal to the principal plus the interest. Now, if we substitute interest, that is I, into that value of principal interest we have, which is I equal to P times RT over 100, we are going to arrive at P plus PRT over 100, which is still equal to P in brackets 1 plus RT over 100. Now, therefore, the future value will now be equal to P into bracket 1 plus RT over 100. That is all you need to know on simple interest. Now we're going to look at, thirdly, profit and loss. Profit occurs when the selling price, that is SP, is greater than the cost price, that is the CP. So profit or gain is equal to the selling price minus the cost price, and thereafter the profit, which is in percentage profit, can be equal to the profit over the cost price times 100, which is also equal to SP minus the cost price all over the cost price times 100. Now we can also calculate the loss on the other hand. Loss occur when the cost price is greater than the selling price. So when we want to calculate loss, the loss can be equal to the cost price minus the selling price. So percentage loss this time around will be the loss all over the cost price times 100, which can also be written as cost price minus selling price over cost price times 100. Now, fourthly, we are going to consider the ratio. The ratio is a numerical comparison between two quantities of the same kind, showing the number of times one value contains or is contained within the order, and it has no units. For example, given two values A and B and their ratio A ratio B, the amount of B will be equal to the B value over the total ratio times the total amount. Finally, we're going to look at the rate. Rate is the ratio between two related quantities in different units. The word per is used to separate the units of the two measurements used in calculating the rate. Now, for example, power is expressed in kilowatts per hour, which is the energy per time. So that word per is always used to compare two quantities in different units. Now, to continue, let's consider some sample questions. And from these sample questions, we are going to analyze these key points we have isolated in this topic. Now, let's go to sample 1. Let's look at our sample question 1. Did you see it displayed on the screen? Now, from that question that is given to you that you've seen on the screen, I want you, what we are asked to look for, the principal amount that will bring about this future value, which is 5,500 at a rate of 2% and at a time period of 5 years. Remember, this man has to put in some money at a given interest and at a given time. Now, what is the initial amount of money this man put in so as to get this future value at this rate and at this time? That's exactly what we are looking for. Now, let's work it out together. Remember, keynote 2, I told you that the amount or the future value is equal to the principal into bracket 1 plus the rate times the time over the 100. Now, do you note that we are looking for the what? The principal. Now, to find out the principal, we have to do some change of subject formula over here. Now, let's go about it. In solving this, we have to make P subject of formula, and to make P subject of formula, we have to divide both sides by this whole value. Now, let's look at that. That will now give us our P now will now give us the future value divided by what? 1 plus RT over what? 100. That is what it will give us. Now we're going to look at the value of P. That's exactly what we do. I hope you realize how we got this. We divided the two parts of this equation by this whole value. If you divide this by this will cut down, then this will be over to this, then P will be equal to this value. Now let's slot in these our values into these expressions. Now we're going to have our P to be equal to, the future value is 5,500 divided by 1 plus the rate is equal to 2 times the time is equal to 5 all over what? 100. So what do we have this? Simplifying this further, we're going to have 5,500 divided by 1 plus 10 over what? 100. Now let's simplify this further. This will cut this. That will give you 1 over 5. So our principal, 1 over 10, our principal will now be equal to 5,500 divided by 1 plus 1 over 10. Now we want to simplify this 1 plus 1 over 10. Now if we have 1 plus 1 over 10, you simplify it using our normal simplification method. This will give you 10, right? Now 10 divided by 1 is 10. 10 times 1 will give you 10, plus 10 divided by 10 is 1. 1 times 1 will give you 1. So if you add this, you're going to have 11 over 10. Now let's bring it back here. This will now give us equal to what? 5,500 divided by 11 over 10. Now this is a division sign. It's just like you are giving 5,500 multiplied by or divided by 11 over 10. Now you know this is going to change. We're going to have something like this: 5,500 multiplied by what? 10 over 11. Right? Now when we multiply this, we are going to have 5,500 with 1 0 here divided by 11. So our principal now will now be the value of this divided by this. 11 divided by 55, that will give you 5. So our principal value is going to give you 5,000. Now you can see the sample question number 2 displayed on the screen. Now the solution to that sample question, we are asked to look for the selling price. We've been given the cost price, we've been given the percentage loss to be 15%. Now recall I told you in one of those keynotes that percentage loss is equal to the loss over the cost price times 100. Now when do a seller or a buyer and a seller goes have a loss? A seller will always have a loss when his cost price is more than his what? His selling price. So we are going to use these principles, and this will now give us the loss here. Now when we calculate this, the loss of the seller is equal to the cost price is 60,000 minus the what? The selling price. So our loss is equal to this. Now let's consider the percentage loss. This time around, the percentage loss you will have will be equal to, using that formula, that will give us 60,000 minus the selling price all over what? The cost price, which is 60,000 multiplied by what? 100. This will cut this, this will cut this. What do we have remaining? We'll have the percentage loss to be equal to 60,000 minus the selling price all over 600. Now do you get it? What next do we need to do here? Remember, we said the percentage loss is what? Is 15, right? Good. Now that will now give us 15 will now be equal to what? 60,000 minus the selling price all over what? 600. Now to look for the value for the selling price, we need to cross multiply. Now when you cross multiply, what do you have? You have your 60,000 minus the selling price equal to what? 600 multiplied by what? By 15. 600 multiplied by 15 is going to give you 9,000. So 9,000 will be equal to what? 60,000 minus the selling what? Price. Now notice from the beginning we are in search of the what? The selling price. That price, this merchant sold his goods to realize a loss of 15%. Now let's look at what we'll get here. We are in search of the selling price. Now if we simplify further, we're going to find out that minus of this selling price will be equal to what? 9,000 minus, because this 60,000 will go over this way to give us what? 60,000. Now if we subtract 9,000 from 60,000, what are we going to get? We're going to arrive at 9,000 minus 60,000. You have 60,000 and you are subtracting 9,000 from it. What do you have? You have 0, 0, 0. This will give you 10. That is 1. That's what? 51 what? That's what you have, 51,000. So recall, this 51,000 is going to be on the negative side because this is carrying minus. So this will give you what? Minus S what? P equal to what? Minus 51 what? 51,000. Now this negative sign will cut this negative side. What we'll have, our selling price will now be equal to what? In naira, 51,000 naira. Now do you notice that this man bought his product at 60,000 naira and now he's selling the product at 51,000 naira? That's a big loss. So you see how we have finally come to calculate the selling price given this value as loss and this percentage loss. We can arrive at the selling price. So that is the value we are looking for. Now let's look at the third sample question. Now let's consider the sample solution for sample 3. Now we are given these parameters: highest share apple as 40 within the ratio 5:3:2, and you're asked to look for the smallest parameter. Now remember the 4 key points or keynotes we discussed about. Now first thing first, the first thing when giving any question on ratio, what you need to do first is to consider the total number of ratio. What's the total number of ratio? The total number of ratio is 5 plus 3 plus 2, which is equal to what? 10. Now the next thing you ask yourself, what is the highest share of apple? The highest share of apple is 40. Now did they give you the total share of apple? Not at all. That is so silly. The question is so interesting. Now all you need to do is to find the total share of apple. Now let's assume that the total share of apple is the total shared apple. Let's consider it to be what? Y. Now this will make our solution very easy. Now remember key point 4. I told you that if you are looking for the highest share of apple, the highest share will be equal to the highest ratio all over the total ratio multiplied by the total apples shared. Now, do you notice that it's becoming simplified? Now, the highest ratio was given to us, the highest share was given to us as 40. That will be equal to what? Now, the highest ratio is what? 5. Do you get it? Good. So, this will give you 5 divided by the total ratio is what? 10. Do you see? Gradually we've arrived at all our parameter. Now, the total apple shared is y. That is what we don't know. Now let's look at what that value of y will give us. Remember, in question like this, you cross what? Multiply, because there's an equal to sign. So this will give you what? 5 times y equal to what? 40 times 10. 5 times y, that will give y will now give you 400 divided by what? 5. 400 divided by 5. This here one. 5 into 40 will give you what? That will give you 8. Thank you very much. So our y will now be what? 8 what? 0. Now, do you know that we've gotten the total number of apple? Fine. Are you following? Now let's consider the smallest share. How do we get the smallest share? We'll go back to this equation. Now, if you check the ratio, you come to see that with your eyes, you come to see that the smallest share will be 2. So if we now take it this way, let's look at the smallest share. The smallest share will now be equal to the what? The smallest ratio divided by the what? The total ratio multiplied by the total what? The total apples. Now let's go. The smallest share, small share, will now be equal to what? The smallest ratio is what? 2 over what? The total ratio is what? 10. Now we've come to know what the total apples are, right? That's 80. Now let's fix it here. Now this will cut this. What do we have remaining? We have 2 times 8. So our smallest share of the apple will now be equal to 2 times 8, which is equal to 16 what? 16 apples. You see? It's very easy, and we can do it. So all you need to do whenever you're given any question on ratio is, first of all, find out what the total ratio is. That's the value you fix here. Find out the value you're looking for, which is going to be here, or the ratio of that value, and then you look for the total values you are given for that quantity. By doing this, you should be able to solve questions on ratio without much stress. Now we're going to take one more final sample, and that sample question is going to be on rate. For solution to other challenge question we posed to you at the earlier part of this video, I want you to look at our ebooks. But before then, let's take the final sample question on rate. Now let's consider the final sample for this topic, sample question 4. We're going to look at rates. Now, if you look at the question that was displayed to you on the screen, you'll come to see that this kerosene increased from 60 naira to 85 naira per liter. Now, two things we are going to consider. What is the initial price, the original price, and what is the price increase? Now, before we look at that, to solve, let's look at the original price. The original price is equal to what? 60 naira. So as time goes on, it increased to what? To 85 naira. Now the percentage increase, sorry, the increase will now be what? The price increase will now be equal to what? 85 naira minus 60 naira. What will that give you? 85 minus 60 will give you what? That will give you 25. Thank you. Now you see, you have 25. That's the price increase from 60 naira to 85 naira, 60 naira to 85 naira. Now if we want to look at, you're asked to calculate the percentage rate of increase. Now the percentage rate of increase will be equal to the price increase all over what? The original price times what? Times 100. Now, following this expression, we are going to see that our percentage rates is equal to 25, which is the percentage increase, price increase, all over what? 60, which is the original price, times what? 100. Now it is as simple as this, cutting what? This. What remains? You have your 250 times 10. So this will give you 250 divided by what? 6. Now let's play with ordinary mathematics. 25 divided by 6 is going to give you 4. Remainder 1. Now 10 divided by 6 is going to give you 1. Remainder 4. Now that 4 will make this a fraction. Now I want you to simplify this further. If you simplify that further, you are going to get 0.66. Now if you bring that here, you're going to have what? 66. Now we are asked to simplify this further. To simplify this further, this will give us approximately 42%. So our percentage rate of increase, the percentage rate of increase of the price is 42%. So when you hear the government saying they want to increase the price of fuel by this percentage, if originally the price was 16 naira, you're going to see it become what? 65 naira at this percentage. So you see, calculating rate of increase or the rate of any value is very simple. I know you can do it. Now look at those sample questions I'm going to give to you, including these other questions we can't be able to solve. The solutions are found in our ebook. Just log into our website and look for ways you can download our ebooks. They are free. They are almost free for everyone to download and read. Go there and get our video and get our ebooks. You'll be able to solve a lot of questions on these various topics we've shown you. I wish you the best in whatever career you're doing and look forward to seeing you watch our next video.